Hey everybody, it's me, Amelia Lady B. Welcome back to my channel, Millennial in Menopause. Before the end of this month, I want to recognize all my endo sisters. It is Endometriosis Awareness. But for those of us who have taken on the task of being advocates and being voices for the endo community, we are spreading awareness 365 days a year. If you are new to my channel or you're just stopping by my channel and you're not aware of endometriosis or what endometriosis is, it is a disorder where the tissue that is similar to what's lining the uterus grows on the outside of the uterus. And this can cause some severe damage and as well as pain. It can attach itself to organs surrounding the uterus, so the bladder, fallopian tubes, the ovaries, the bowel. It's even known to go in rare conditions, the kidneys, the lungs, and also even to your brain. Endometriosis affects 1 in 10 women, although I think maybe that number is rising, so it may not just be 1 in 10, it could be even more. Typically, endometriosis is diagnosed through laparoscopic surgery. Like all chronic illnesses, endometriosis does not affect everyone the same. Some women are able to have endometriosis and experience no pain at all. They may have pain during sex, but it may not affect them during their menstrual cycle. Women do experience pain, and it's not even in flare-ups. So pain not just during your menstrual, but even after your menstrual, days leading up to your menstrual. And it can cause back pain, leg pain, the entire body, to be honest with you. Endometriosis does have stages, stage 1 to 4. And so, again, it affects women differently. And so why I even started this channel or even my platform started from my journey with endometriosis, and now I am experiencing surgical menopause because I had a radical hysterectomy due to my stage 4 endometriosis. And so a little bit about my journey is that when I was 9 years old, I started my menstrual and I started experiencing cramps, and I mean like not the normal like, oh, my period's on, but like really severe cramps at the age of 10. And it progressed on throughout my adult life. I think I went to a gynecologist for the first time at 21. When I was younger, the pediatrician, of course, would just say to take Midol or some type of pain medication, Midol, Advil, or whatever the case may be. It worked for a while, and after a while, your body gets used to these pain meds, and so it no longer really does anything for your pain. 21 was my first time going to the gyno. I had a lot of tests done. I was in college at the time, so I was going through all of that while trying to take exams and do papers and all this stuff, and it was just a lot of them. I had my first surgery where it was a laparoscopic it was supposed to be a laparoscopic surgery, but ended up being almost like a cesarean section cut that I had, and they removed like a golf ball size cyst from my right ovary, and that is when I was diagnosed with endometriosis and something called adenomyosis, which is scar tissue. Sometimes it is in conjunction with endometriosis, but it can be a standalone disorder in its own. That was my first surgery when I was 21. That was like in 2000, I don't even know, 2003, I want to say. I had additional surgeries as well that led up to my radical hysterectomy. Prior to my hysterectomy, my doctor we did have a plan to save my ovaries. The plan was to save my ovaries because I did want to have children. But unfortunately, he was unable to do that because how the endo had kind of mingled all of my organs together. And so it was kind of a hard deal for him to be able to separate and to even that they would even function the same. So I had a radical hysterectomy, which was the removal of my uterus, my fallopian tubes, my ovaries. I had a partial vagina um, removal as well. And yeah, so I'm now experiencing surgical menopause, and I've been doing so for 7 years now. It's very important for me to talk about my journey through with endometriosis, because endometriosis really changed. I don't even know if I want to say changed my, well, it did. It changed my life, and it also kind of affected so many parts of it that I didn't realize it affected. Like, it kind of made me a little, it made me being an introvert a little bit more extensive, because I was going through a chronic illness that I couldn't explain. I didn't know, I didn't have a name for, especially going through school, didn't have a name for it. And no one else was experiencing what I was experiencing. And so it was hard for me to keep friends or even to have a social life, um, because one minute I'm okay and the next minute I'm not. I'll say more so when I got to college. So my college experience wasn't like everybody else's. There was no parties for me. There was no going out and, having a good time, because in that scope, in that time frame, I believe like my endometriosis kind of became, I want to say it like, probably, it just, it was worse than it had ever been before, prior to. Um, I missed a lot of class. I had to do like, I think it was twice. One time I had to do like a term forgiveness. Next time I had to do like a semester forgiveness. And then I took a year off after my first surgery. It was like I just couldn't manage. It was very difficult to manage, and I didn't have anybody that I could like trust, talk to, or would understand what I was going through. So it really it changed my life, and it really kind of like stagnated my progress in a way. Why I talk about it is because I don't want anyone else to feel the same. Also, to encourage parents, caregivers, um, aunts, uncles, aunties, people, just to make yourself aware of the different things and chronic illnesses that women do go through, that you may see symptoms of in your nieces and your cousins or something like that, and really assisting them and not making them feel as though they're faking or making things up, because it's a serious disease. It's not something to be taken lightly. Anyone knows dealing with a chronic illness, it is very lonely, because you can't do the things that everybody else does. And sometimes it may come across as if you're separating yourself from people because you can't. And people make you feel like when you say I can't, they make you feel as though you're making something up, or you just don't want to hang out with them. Being a Black woman is such a huge thing in the Endo community as well, because sometimes Black women aren't seen as someone or people, like we're not individuals who feel pain. Like, we are some super humans or something, that pain does not, like, we don't feel pain, where it doesn't inflict us, and we're able to manage no matter what. And I know that comes from the ideology during slavery, and also the ideology of being the superwoman or the strong woman and things like that. And so it's false, and I want more of us to speak up about our pain, speak up about what we're feeling, and really advocate for ourselves in the doctor's offices. I have been through so many doctors who I've just walked out of the office and never returned because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like they don't listen. They just put me on some prescribed birth control, and then that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no checking up on me. There's no when I come in the office. There's no conversation being had. It's like, oh, you feel cramps, pap smear, and out the door. What? Um, just so you know, a pap smear cannot detect endometriosis. A pap smear cannot detect fibroids. A pap smear cannot detect um, pelvic inflammatory disease or PCOS. These are things that cannot be picked up on a pap smear. So you can have a pap smear and it's normal, but you're still feeling abnormal pain. You are crunched over. You're throwing up. You're passing out. You are what else? You're getting bloated all the time. There's a plethora of symptoms that people experience, and it could be anything. It's not just normal cramps. And so when you're looked over like that, and this isn't just for Black women. I have women in the community that I've met in the Endo community who are white women as well, who have been brushed aside because they feel as though we're over exaggerating or something. We're no hypochondriacs. We are actually experiencing pain that is unseen by the eye. It has to be. You have to have surgery in order for it to be known what's going on. And so that's why I go strong for endo. And that's why I go strong too for surgical menopause, because, these are conversations that need to be had. And I know, like I was saying, in the Black community, we don't talk often about what's going on with our health. We don't talk, we may know like about high blood pressure that goes on in the family, maybe even cancer that goes on in the family or something like that. But when it comes to mental health, when it comes to like our reproductive health and different things like that, we don't talk about it. And it's sad because your story can help the next generation, because for so long I had no clue that I had family members who had endometriosis until after my hysterectomy and I started sharing my story. And so I had family members that would comment and say, oh, yeah, I had that too. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, I had no clue. These things are stuff that's asked. When you go to the doctor, you have to fill that paperwork out and they ask you if you have any family members that have, a certain disease or anything like that. That stuff is very important. Do I think that it could have changed the scope of me having a hysterectomy or not? Who knows? Who knows? But it happened, and I don't look on that. But it is very important to know because it might prompt a doctor to say, you know what, if you have a family history of it, let's look into it. And it could spark, early detection and, possibly just putting together maybe some type of treatment plan or, wellness plan for yourself where you can, manage as best as possible. I've had conversations with my cousins about their menstrual cycles. I'm very on top of that. Anytime, if I see someone crunched over and it's like kind of weird, I'm asking all types of questions. And they're like, are you a doctor? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But, I had endometriosis. And so, I try to look out for people and to, ask certain questions because it's very important to know what's happening with your body, because if there's any changes that you can make in your personal life, that could ease your pain or ease the process, then it's best to just know. Some things I learned along the way that I want to share with you all about through my endo journey. So these are just a few tips, few things that I've kind of learned along the way that I think can help And that first thing is doing your research and being your own advocate in the doctor's office. I know prior to me being diagnosed, at the time, like in the early 2000s, Googling things weren't that big. And like internet access was kind of weird. You still had dial up and like, or moving out of dial up into like getting the services and whatnot. And so I really only had access at school on campus. And so I would do a lot of research or try to, find out what was going on, looking up symptoms. And it came across a whole lot of things, like ovarian cancer and all this kind of stuff. And then I did come across endometriosis. And I was like, I think this sounds most like me, but I'm not sure. And at the time, they had a lot of chat rooms back then, okay? There was no YouTube, there was no Instagram. We had chat rooms. And so I would go into the chat rooms and hear women talking. I would like pose some questions, and they were like, yeah, you need to go to the gyno and you need to check that out. Ask them about endometriosis and things like that. And so those were things that were able to help me. And so even though a lot of doctors say don't use Google, and even I would kind of like say don't stress yourself out with Google, because it will be telling you have something that you don't have, right? But it is a tool, because sometimes we have to be, so extreme so we can rule some things out. And we have to look up things to try to help us. It's just like how if you found my channel, through just searching, or it may have come up into your feed some kind of way, but you probably typed in menopause, or you typed in endometriosis, or you saw the tag, something like that. And people watch videos now and go to Instagram for information like this, because they're trying to find out, is there anyone else who's experiencing what I'm experiencing? Are there any tips that I can receive that can help me through this process, and be able to talk to a doctor? And so that's what I mean by doing your research. There are things that I didn't know to ask that I know now, just based off of my research and based off of the experience that I've had with so many doctors. I, like many other women, are people that you can go to for resources, and go to for maybe even specialists. You might be in the city of a person who you connect with, and they can lead you to their doctor. Talk to other women in the endo community, or whatever chronic illness that you're dealing with. Talk to someone in that community so that you can, feel more at ease as you're going through this process. The second tip that I have is to gather your support system. When I was on this journey, it was just me, okay? I will say, because when I was in college, I had moved away and I lived with my aunt and her family. And so at first, my aunt was very, she thought I was playing games, I didn't want to wash dishes and stuff. But when I started, getting really sick, and she was the one who took me to my first gyno appointment. And so as I was going through all my tests and stuff, and then finally surgery, and realized what was happening, she was like, oh my gosh, I had no clue, and I think she felt kind of bad because she just didn't know. Even though I had her, I still went to my doctor's appointments by myself, because after I left from when I came back home, so I was in Jacksonville and I came back home to South Florida, I was by myself. I, tried out all these gynos by myself, went to the doctor's appointments by myself. Even getting my news of having the hysterectomy, I was alone. That was really rough. And, at the time, my friends really didn't understand. They knew, the ones my friends from high school knew that I was dealing with, that I had bad cramps, because when I was in high school, it was really bad. But there was still that level of not really understanding what I was going through, and really didn't quite get it. So I didn't have that type of support in that sense. But when I went to the hospital and stuff, yeah, my family was there for me, and it was just amazing. That alone did a lot for me. But it's very important to see and to gather your community and to inform them of what you need from them. And I didn't express that enough. So I would definitely encourage you to talk to your friends, talk to your family, and kind of inform them of what you need from them. What can they do for you? How can they support you? Because you're going to need that through this process, through this journey, because it is, with endometriosis, there's no cure for endo. Not even having the radical hysterectomy is a cure for endo. I haven't had any symptoms per se of endometriosis. I go to the gyno once a year for my regular pap smear and pelvic exam. So far, I've been okay. But because there is no cure, you're likely to go through this, for the rest of your life. And there are different things that you're going to have to do to try to manage your pain. And whatever you choose to do in your life, if you plan on having children, these are such big conversations that you have to have with the people in your life. If they can go with you to your doctor's appointments and take notes for you while you just listen, because it's just so much. It's a lot going on when you go to these appointments, and you don't want to be by yourself during this time. The third tip is to keep track of your pain and the location of that pain. Pay attention to where that pain is. For so long, I want to say since like high school, I want to say about junior year. Think about junior year. I started feeling pain in my left kidney. And I was like, why am I feeling this pain? So I would drink cranberry juice and things like that, and it just got worse. It got progressively worse. I can't remember other scans and all this kind of stuff, and they didn't see anything. It wasn't until it was years later, because I told you I went through a period of a plethora of doctors that I could not stand. It wasn't until about 2012 I had a surgery, and I was telling my doctor about what I was feeling, and lo and behold, my endo had kind of wrapped around my kidneys and was like pulling it out of place, pretty much. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, it can affect anything. Pay attention to your bowels, because endo can affect the bowels as well. So it can be constipation, diarrhea. Just pay attention to what happens during your menstrual, before your menstrual, and after your menstrual. I went to a conference, an endometriosis conference, and I heard the story or testimony of this young lady who was saying that, just before her menstrual, she would get like shortness of breath. And she really couldn't figure out, what that was about. And of course, it took some time, and she realized, like, when she was on her period, that she couldn't breathe. Like, she really struggled to breathe. And lo and behold, it took some time, but she had endo in her lungs. And so that's why I'm saying, like, be aware of where your pain points are. Is it painful? Even during sex, is sex painful? When you use a tampon, if you use a tampon, is using a tampon painful? Your flow. You want to look at, is it heavy? Is it light? Do you stay on longer than, I think the normal time frame is about 5 days, about 5 days. Is it longer than 5 days? And if so, what's the flow each time? Like, does it subside? Does it get worse? What does it look like? Keep a journal of it. And so when you go to your gyno, you have all of this information, and they're able to hopefully do a thorough exam and kind of explore different things that could be happening to you. The next thing is things to consider, and I have like 4 different things that I want you to consider. I would consider changing the products that you use. So, if you are not aware, a lot of the sanitary napkins, tampons, and different things like that that we are using that is use, that we're using from mainstream products, um, they have chemicals in them, and there are things that are in our pads that are very dangerous, can cause cancer, and actually do scientifically have been correlated to causing endometriosis as well as other reproductive health issues as well. So you want to consider some natural brands. To name a few, I would say Honey Pot, and there's another one called Ruby Love. I will put the link in the description so that you can check them out. Head over to their Instagram as well, but definitely consider some change in your products. Also, you want to consider some change in your food. So as I was saying, food plays a huge role in our bodies. With endometriosis is it kind of flares up, not kind of, it flares up during our menstrual cycle. And my doctor actually informed me that it's like our hormones are imbalanced greatly, where our estrogen levels are higher than anything else, than a normal woman's estrogen would be. And so because it feeds off of that. And so chicken, specifically, because they're pumped up with a whole lot of hormones and antibiotics, it increases even more the estrogen in our bodies. So, and plays with the hormones. You want to do lean meats if you're going to eat meats, lean meats. I kind of stayed away. I started veering off of like the red meats and stuff, and I'm more on if I eat chicken, it's chicken breasts, and it's chicken breasts with no antibiotics and no hormones. If you're able to do so, look into the other eating styles, but definitely look into anti-inflammatory, which is literally more plant-based and more along the lines of like fish, salmon. One of the things that I used to get sick from when I was in college, chicken from anywhere. So I could have fried chicken, I could have baked chicken, whatever it may be. And after I ate it, I would get sick in my stomach. It would just make me feel weird. And like it actually made my side hurt. So this was prior to me seeing my current doctor, who actually did the surgery and said that my kidneys were being pulled. That was prior to that surgery. So it made a lot of sense when he told me. He was like, chicken has a lot of hormones in it. And I was like, oh man, okay, makes sense. Even now, I can go somewhere and I'll know if that chicken is not good chicken. And I don't mean like chicken like, oh, I'm food poison type chicken. I know it has some type of hormones or some kind of chemical in it because my body reacts to it. So pay attention to your body, ladies. You just never know things. There's a reason why you feel a certain way while you're eating certain things. Throw that away. Leave that out of your diet. The next thing I want you to consider is herbal teas. Tea was always a staple for me during that time of the month. Chamomile tea, green tea. Or if you're not apt to tea, because there are some people who don't like tea, so I would suggest like maybe hot water, put some honey in it. It's just something to soothe your stomach and soothe the pain. Heat helps a lot. So also consider juicing. Juicing provides you with a whole lot of nutrients, a lot of vitamin nutrients that your body will need. If you're not getting it from a food source, like you're eating it daily, or you may not be taking certain supplements that your body probably needs, or even you could just replace your supplements, because a lot of times we take a lot of vitamins, but most of the time half the vitamins that we take are filled with fillers, and so how much of the nutrient are we really getting? So consider juicing. It might help curb some of your menstrual pains. So that's just a little bit about me, a little bit about my journey, and some of the tips that I want to provide to you all. Again, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and it is represented by the color yellow. But check me out on Instagram at Millennial and Menopause. Don't forget to head over to my website, millennialandmenopause.com. Please share, like, comment, and thank you for watching. I hope you come back to catch more of my channel, Millennial and Menopause. Until next time, ladies, be blessed, bold, and beautiful.